How's it going, man? I'm just going to introduce myself first to my scenario. Jonathan, Brian's cousin. Fitness, mobility, health has been my lifestyle. Had my own business around it, and I prevented injuries and healed my own injuries for 14 years probably. The most recent injury that I had, I think, was also an onset of kind of the same thing that you were talking about. The way that I was working out and the way that my natural body position was contributed to the factors that led to sciatica, or a very similar pain. It may not be the exact pain that you and I experienced, but it was excruciating, and it was keeping me up at night. I couldn't sit at work. It was awful. But yeah, I was, shooting pain all the way from here, all the way down the leg, foot tingling, all of that stuff. Over this video, you're gonna see me chopped up a couple different things: exercises, posture, things that I do daily now to strengthen, mitigate those symptoms, and hopefully just strengthen my body to prevent it from ever coming back ever again. All right, here we go. All right, so first thing we're gonna talk about here was my posture. So the chiropractors and physicians and whatnot that I saw, they did notice I had an interesting posture, and I've always kind of known that I've had, I guess, an odd posture. But if I'm fully relaxed, this is what my body wants to do. So this is my belly button. I wore clothing so you can really see what my body's doing here. It's folding forward. So I not only have an anterior tilt in my pelvis, so here's my pelvic bones, I have an anterior tilt, I also have a secondary tilt inside of my low back here. So my body easily just, folds backwards. That is what they said was one of the major factors. My working out on top of that exacerbated the symptoms that led to this pain. And I suffered from this pain for 4 months. I mean, it was some of the worst pain. I've broken my back, broken my collarbone, fake teeth, had a lot of injuries. This was the worst by far. So it was interesting to hear that the way that I've been working out and my posture had done this, because I thought I had great posture. I thought I had a straight back. And what I was actually doing is I was literally folding in on that disc itself. So this is how my body wants to be if I just relax. So what I've had to do every single day since we've identified this is I have to rotate my hips forward. So I have to manually use my core and suck this in, and then I also have to brace with my core. The other thing I have to do is straighten my legs a little bit. It is somewhat of a workout, and I also have to knit my ribs in so that I then look like this instead of this. So I need to manually set myself up like this, walking, sitting, standing, every day, which sucks, until it becomes natural again. So I have to overcome 20, 30 years. I'm 33 now, so 30 years of this. So that's gonna be the first thing is, chucking in this stomach. So you're here, if I'm fully relaxed, knitting it in, trying to, like there's a thread, bring your belly button to the back of your spine and not have your ribs flayed out. Knit those down as well. That will also automatically kind of tilt the hips forward, which will relieve some of that pressure on the disc. So it's not the sole thing that we're going to do, but starting doing this while walking, retraining your walking, standing, and sitting is going to be the beginning. All right, so the first series that we're going to talk about is the strengthening and the working out aspect. I also did a lot of knees over toes guy. I have always kind of had a lot of back pain in various ways. I've been in the military 14 years now, lots of rucking, long distance reconnaissance and all this stuff. Just a lot of time with weight on my body. So that posture that I was showing you earlier kind of helped keep the weight directly over my hips. And I think that also, contributed to a lot of the factors of the low back pain. So this first series is going to be multiple clips of strengthening videos with weight and without weight. The without weight ones is what I started with, which were just a lot of body weight and core strengthening, and then I'll eventually get into some of the movements that you'll do, or if you choose to, that you can do with lightweight and then slowly progressing. But it's a lot of retraining. From what I saw on that x-ray, we had very similar low back posture. I wish I had my photos, my x-rays with me, but here we go. Series of clips on strengthening of the core, hips, and a little bit of the low back. So, first things first, this is just one of these TheraBands that I had from a chiropractor. Those help for the smaller ones. I also have a hip circle, which really helps for the hip strengthening. One of the first movements that we did was taking this, around your knees. We call them clamshells, or here. Your body's either up or you're lying down fully. And you are just lifting your knees apart, 8 to 10 inches, back down. Extending, holding. My feet are touching at the bottom, back down. And we were just doing those for one. The key to this is also still having that tucked in hip posture. So we're still sucking those abs in. So you're bracing that core, pulling it straight to your back while doing these exercises. Extending, holding, back down. Next exercise is a variation of the same movement, just with the resistance at 2 different areas. So the first will be at the ankles, and the second will be across the knees. If you've done a lot of these exercises before from physical therapy and whatnot, bear with me, try some of the other ones that you haven't, but I do consistently try to do all these at least once a week. I should be better about it. When I was injured, I was doing it 3 times a week, but just add all these in, take new ones that you haven't, and put them together. So. Small banding in, around the ankles, bracing the hips, tucking that core in, getting those abs in. We're just stepping out. I'm looking to flare up the hips here. And then you can do this. I'm always doing 2-minute rounds, just back and forth. Making sure that everything stays locked in, squared up, elbow forward, and core braced. The other version of that is around the knees. Very similar, I'm using a hip circle. Now, making sure that we're leading with the knee on this one, it just adds a little more resistance to the outside of the glute. So you won't feel this one so much on the sides, it'll feel it wrapped around the back and a little bit of the low back. 2 very similar movements, done different ways. Yeah, and you've done knees over toes. You've done variations of this, if not this exact same exercises. This was one. I'll just demonstrate this real fast. Over here. Using that same core bracing technique, stepping up, you can change the elevation. Hips are tucked, core's knit in, ribs are flat. Here, and I'm stepping up. Full extension. Not overextending, but a full extension to the legs, coming down. Or in front of it. This is not the best box, but I'm in the yoga studio instead of the gym here. Uses a lot of control and bracing of the core. And for these next ones, there's a series that will kind of go through on the ground again. So you can use the flutter kicks with the band or not. If you use them with the band, it's nice and slow. So you're on the ankles again. You're laying back, core walker posture. You're here, holding, keeping these legs in line with your core. I'm not crossing over, not coming out wide, keeping that core braced. Really trying to hollow out, get that proper angle. Static wise, would be here, bracing to the core, arms out. You can just do these holds. Any real variation of these hollow holds, arms overhead, as long as you're pressing down through, really sucking in that core, it's gonna help out a lot. This next little series, bird dogs. So these are awesome. They actually, I think they really help me out, the different variations of them. So you've probably seen these over here. Knees and ground, knees and ground. Core is tucked, hips are tucked, but not overly rounded. And first we're just starting off regular, right? Lifting and straightening. But the next thing that we had me do was we added bands, which were whatever. But what I really enjoyed was taking the foot off the ground. So I'm here, I'm doing my bird dogs within my stabilizing leg, lifting. And I used to be a little bit better at it than these. And then we were coming down, and it really focuses on controlling that core and that balance. So, different variations of the bird dogs. Pressing, holding, you can 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and build up from there. And these are 2 variations with a medicine ball. Pardon me, 3 different variations with a medicine ball. 2 are similar, 1 is sitting on it, and I'll go through those steps now. So that hollow hold that we really are trying to work on, strengthening this entire core. It's going to be very important to counteract the overstrengthening of the back and quads. So here, we're going to use your medicine ball, hopefully you have one. If not, something that can roll at least the sliders on the ground, which I don't think I have in this gym. Sliders can also work for 2 of these, but the third you do need to have a medicine ball. So here we have our medicine ball. What I'm going to do is set up my legs on them, ensuring that I have my proper core brace and my ribs tucked in. And I'm just going to pull in. Pulling in towards my core, keeping this constantly engaged. And so I'm here, trying to maintain that flexion the whole time. The other one is bringing the hips high here. Okay. So those 2 variations are some of my favorite. They really seem to activate a lot of the deep core muscles for me. So it is one of my favorites to do. The other one they had me do was sitting on the ball, these weird marches thing. Your goal is to have their knees straight out and to not shift. You want to keep balance center. I'm still not very good at these. I can already feel myself leaning. You want to stay stationary and lift. Lift the leg down. And it works this specific tie-in or whatever it was in the obliques and abs in the front here. Adductors here. So I'm supposed to be able to hold that for like 5 seconds. And I can do it on this side. This is my uninjured side, or stronger side, whatever you want to call it. But you're just sitting here, hands on your hips, wherever, above your head, however you want. The goal is to bring it up and hold it without shifting too much. As you can see, I'm still shifting. But this is pretty good the whole time. Again, leaning that core in, making sure those hips are tucked forward. And you will notice it is easier when your hips are tucked in properly. Yeah, I can pretty much nail it on this side, but this side is, it's very interesting. It's still a point that I'm working on as well. The other thing that I had to retrain, this may or may not apply to you, but I'll talk about it. My hamstrings weren't firing. With a lot of my knees over toes stuff, my Jefferson curls outstanding, my lumbar were just meaty. And that exacerbated the issue. I had strong quads, low back, like I said at the beginning of this video, and that literally my strong tight quads were pulling my hips forward, and then my strong lumbar were also pulling. That combo really just exacerbated the shift in my hips, and it eventually pinched that nerve. So I had to retrain my deadlift and even some of my squats. Before I had this injury, or pain starting, I couldn't even back squat because the way that my back was working. I was here and I was doing some crazy stuff, and I couldn't counteract it. So we're gonna go talking over retraining of the deadlift here. So this is with it looks huge, but it's just 20 pounds. I started back with a similar dumbbell, 20s and 30s, just to retrain the hamstrings and core. So here, we want to make sure we have everything back in line, hips in place, core sucked in, moving down. And we're really trying to make sure that this is still braced and knit in. And I'm just really focusing on the core in the front, and then the hamstring in the back side. Here, focusing up, nice and slow. And this was very frustrating for me because I could deadlift 350 pounds before this, and here I am retraining how to deadlift, and I was getting sore after like 75 pounds. So here, trying to make sure that it's perfect, which I still have a lot of training to go to. Making sure your hips are up high enough. That was another issue of mine, as you already saw. I was quad dominant, so I was really using my quads on my deadlift when I should have been. Just a light bend, flexing the hamstrings here, core braced, everything. Firing those glutes and hamstrings. Same thing with a front squat. Making sure everything was tucked in up high here, and not going too far past this. Here, and not overextending at the top. So you can do that with various weights, barbells, whatnot. But ensuring you train those properly to build that core strength is going to be key to going forward if you're working out and training and whatnot. Alright, so I forgot the name of the press in this one. A pad or towel on the ground, the side that you're pulling the weight from, knee down, other leg up, straight out, making sure you're not bowing out or anything. The hips are being cocked, making sure they're stacked, core tucked and straight. You'll take the weight here, center of the chest, make sure everything's tucked, and you are pressing straight out and holding. The strength comes from the end of the movement, so it doesn't really matter how fast you go from here to there. You can keep it slow. You can punch right out. The goal is holding this starting in 3 seconds, and then 5 seconds, and then 10 seconds. Making sure that everything is in line here. So that you're not cheating. Keeping everything in line. You'll feel this in the adductors on the same side as well. So you would just switch sides. Same thing here. 5 to 10 reps each side, and 3 sets of that, holding 5 to 10 seconds. So it's going to be an important one as well for this one to wrap up for. All right, another good strength training exercise would be hip thrusts. You can do them with weight, without weight. You can also add a banded ending to it. So you can use a hip circle. I'll just do them both at the same time. Hip circle is there. I take my weight. I make sure my core and everything's locked in. Feet placed properly, and then just pressing through. Just trying to maintain this pelvic core strength. This isn't a lot of weight, so it is a little more difficult here. So there we go. So once I'm making sure that when I'm resetting back into my proper back position, because even right now, I'm coming out of it when I'm going up. So here, pressing up and through. Really trying to flex through, keep everything nice and solid. The other way that you would end is do a series of those, and then you would do pulses outward. So here, you can see up, pulsing, good hold. Wow, yeah. I need to do these more. I already feel this. So make sure everything is nice and solid here. Doing those. The hip thrusts. All right, next, we're gonna do some of the stretching. So we need to release some of the back tension. We need to release a lot of the quad tension. My chiropractor and physical therapist, they both said that because of my workouts and running, all that stuff, my quads were tight and they were pulling the tops of my hips forward where they connect onto the pelvic girdle. So I'm gonna go a series of stretches that I used for quads, hamstrings, low back, hips, just kind of loosening up this area so nothing is like holding back any type of progress. So one of my favorites is, I think this is called like the couch stretch. You use a couch, pad, whatever. This is just a stack of blocks. Top of the foot goes on top, knee comes down, and here I attempt to regain my posture. My hips tucking forward, and just doing this, I already feel it stretching right through here, which is exactly where I need to stretch, right on the top of this quad, and I'm not even fully in position yet. So as soon as I chuck this hip forward and I brace, and I'm basically just holding here, pressing through, making sure everything's nice and solid and tucked, making sure my hips, again, with that pal-off press, making sure they're not angled or cockeyed here when I'm doing this, making sure they're not here, making sure they're tucked down so that they're nice and even. Here, back on it, pressing through, holding. Doing that, I do that on both sides. Though that this is the side that's afflicted, I do it on both sides to maintain all these exercises, to do both sides, to maintain, equilibrium, symbiosis, whatever it's called. So that's one. All right, continuing with stretching. Another thing that I found interesting was making sure my obliques were loose. So you can do this in a myriad of ways. I'm just going to use this rack. Looks like it's bolted down. You are literally just curving yourself, and it really loosens up. Loosens up the entire side of the obliques. Doing this both sides. I think my physical therapist called it the ballerina stretch. I'm really getting way in, curving out. So those are some of the standing ones on that. All right, so most of our stretching was on the floor, So another classic was the pigeon. We're here coming across, leg extending all the way out, feet flat, coming down. Obviously, you have to be able to touch the ground for this. Just leaning yourself forward. I've done a lot of yoga and started Pilates because of this. So making sure that your hips aren't double bending in when you're doing this, making sure you are still trying to keep that positioning and coming down. So again, in the front, coming across, reaching back and down while maintaining a good pelvic position. All right, another seated one. Here, crossing that foot up. You can press yourself up into it and kind of use your glute to pull yourself down if you need. This one seemed to work on, target my afflicted side, but not so much my other side. But they're both still good. Another way you can do this is laying down. You're pressing them through, and you can add a twist to it. So I'm rotating towards the bent leg side. I'll show you on this side here, crossing and leaning on down. This whole time, my shoulders are maintaining contact with the ground and rotating to these sides. You don't have to do the rotation, but it does feel good. Otherwise, you can just here, you can press, or you can use your muscles to press them. One that is a combination of mobility and strength, whatever. Getting back in that bird dog tabletop position, I was literally just practicing this, flexing the core in, kind of pressing through this, only the cat part of cat and cow for yoga.
pressing up through, really trying to get some mobility. I wasn't sinking down, but I was really trying to press through and get this low back to start, actuating a little more on some of these. Another quad stretch here. We're on the ground, knee coming to the front, or the foot coming to the front of the knee, grabbing. You can lean all the way back. You can place the leg on top, or just don't even have it on there at all. Kind of back to that couch stretch. That helps press back. When we're doing this, again, almost everything that we're doing, we're really trying to keep that pelvic tilt forward and that core braced and those ribs in. That was my big thing. I was never doing that, so I could always just keep doing that, but I was destroying my back at the same time. Another series of mobility and partial stretching was a mix of planks, hamstring stretches, standing and sitting and whatnot. So there was a lot of reaching out as far as you can and trying to loosen everything. Again, maintaining this pelvic tilt, which is pretty easy at this angle. And we were just walking out, do a plank, and then walking back. And then when I was coming up, really focusing on bending those knees and flexing these hamstrings and coming up. Other core exercises. Obviously, the shoulder taps are a classic. Right, so here we're in more any type of plank walking. So just it's that same hollow hold that we were doing on the ground, but you could also do, flutter kicks or leg raises and whatnot. Working on strengthening that core really helped out. There's many other stretches, many other exercises that you can find out there and throw in, but these were some of the main ones that I used almost on a daily basis. Yeah, so that's most of everything. There was other things that I added in here and there that I talked to my doctor about, like, hey, can I do this, can I do that? Yoga and Pilates. Those are two things that I was already doing yoga. I added in Pilates because that positioning that we were really trying to get to ease pressure off that spine is the Pilates thing, where it's like knit in stomach, knit in ribs, tucked in core. So if you look up different Pilates core exercises, I know it sounds kind of silly, but those things are awesome. So exercises even from there that I found, okay, these side plank, leg raises and all that stuff, I was throwing in on a daily or other day basis. But yeah, I suffered for 4.5 long months. I can't imagine suffering for a year. It was awful. My cousin knows it. He knows what my pain threshold and physical ability is, and it was crushing, mentally crushing, physically crushing to be in that much pain, inescapable pain. And I'm very sorry that you have to go through that. That truly is awful. I hope that these exercises and then also modifications, that pal-off press can be done with a cable, a weight, or it can be done with a band. You can do catwalks instead of just the bird dogs. You can start walking and moving, bear crawls, any type of ground core movement can definitely help. Definitely the knees over toes stuff. There is some great stuff on it. I think my issue was overtraining certain areas, undertraining others, and that was one of the issues that got me to this point. But I've basically made almost a full recovery. There are days that my back will hurt, or I'll do something or sleep wrong. That was another thing. Sleeping is also a difficult thing to break that natural position because you're not conscious. But for the most part, I can move. I can do my yoga and acro yoga. I play sports. I can volleyball and all that with very little, if not no pain. And I hope that we can get you there, whether through some of these exercises or exercises that maybe a physical therapist and the doctor can assign to you. But best of luck, man. And if you have any other questions, I'm always here.